Live here on the end of all anti-Semites. We're learning in Chassidus. This is a book of Chassidus by the Friedrich Rebbe. The previous Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson, is the father-in-law of the Rebbe. We're learning about the root cause of anti-Semitism. Remember, Chassidus is spirituality. It's not shallow. It's not knee-jerk reaction. This is a deep dive into the core. It's a deep dive into the core and the soul of our human experience. What that means is that when we encounter anti-Semitism, we have a problem. How do we react? What do? Do you blame the hater? Or do you understand that there's more at play, more than meets the eye? We as Jews know that in the Torah portion just 3 weeks ago, Abraham was promised by God that your descendants will be strangers in a foreign land for 400 years, and they'll be persecuted for 400 years. So it's very, very clear that anti-Semitism is premeditated by God, pre-planned. Does that mean that the anti-Semites get off scot-free? No. The Torah makes it clear, and also the nation that they'll be forced to serve, I will judge. So in other words, the people that are the haters, they will actually be made to pay for their actions, right? So even though God decreed that the Jew needs to suffer, who's going to be the executioner? So the executioner is going to be held accountable for his choice of being the one who chooses to become the angel of destruction, right? So all anti-Semites will have to pay for their crimes. Nevertheless, as Jews we know, please guys use a plate because we don't have a cleaning staff here 24/7. Thank you. So as Jews we know that God does plan anti-Semitism. How does that work? What's the mechanism that is at play over here? And that's what this discourse is that we're learning. It's starts on page 379. It's called Reishis Goyim Amalek. Amalek is the first amongst nations in its hatred of Jews, and in the end, he shall be destroyed. This is a verse that comes straight out of the Torah in the book of Numbers, book of Bamidbar, which talks about how this anti-Semite Amalek will be destroyed at the end of days. We spoke about in the earlier part of this discourse how all anti-Semites will be converted. But Amalek is the only one that will be destroyed. And that's what we're trying to understand. What does it mean that all anti-Semites will be converted to good? And how Amalek will be the one that will be destroyed. So that's what we're trying to understand. Why is this anti-Semite different to all other anti-Semites? It's very interesting, actually, that we learned in the Torah 2 weeks ago that Abraham was promised by God that those who curse you will be cursed and those who bless you will be blessed, right? But if you look at the words closely, it's a very interesting choice of wording in the Torah. Mevarchecha baruch umekalelcha aor. Mevarchecha baruch, those who bless you will be blessed. That makes sense. Baruch means blessed. Mevarchecha baruch, those who bless you will be blessed. Umekalelcha, those who curse you, what should it say? It should say Yekulal. Umekalelcha Yekulal. Those who curse you shall be cursed. That's what it should say. Instead, it changes the verb. It says, and those who curse you shall be cursed. It uses a different word in Hebrew. Arur. Arur is another word for curse. So, but it's difficult to translate what I'm trying to say. But in the Hebrew it says Umekalelcha, and those who curse you are Arur. If it says Umekalelcha Arur, and those who curse you will be cursed, that would kind of make sense. It would be funny that it changed the verb, but it would be okay. It would make sense. But the way that it says that is not a mekalelcha arur, but mekalelcha aar, which it cuts out one of the root letters of one of the core letters of the root. Arur is aleph resh resh, which means curse. And when you cut out the first resh, you're left with aar, just one resh. Difficult to translate this, but the literal translation would read, and those who curse you will be illuminated. Or is light. So the way you actually read this is those who bless you will be blessed, and those who curse you will be illuminated. Because When you read the word umekalelcha, or is light. Arur is cursed. Arur, 2 Reishis, 2 R's. So the way that it writes it in the Torah is very, very interesting. And those who curse you will be illuminated, is what it says. What does it mean they'll be illuminated? Cursing the Jews, anti-Semitism, is born out of severe ignorance. You know, it's very interesting, by the way, that people think that the world has gone mad. Do you think the world has gone mad? I don't think so. I don't think the world's gone mad at all. What are they accusing us of? Genocide.
War crimes.
War crimes. They're accusing us of killing innocent people.
Sure. Right.
Good morning, America. They've been accusing us of this for the past 1,000 years at least. You ever heard of the blood libel? What? No, hang on. Let's not get emotional.
Blood libel.
Let's not get emotional. Let's be very historical. What's the blood libel? You know what a blood libel is? You never heard of the blood libel? The blood libel was the lie, the propaganda that was disseminated amongst Gentiles about the Jews for at least 1,000 years. They accused the Jews of killing Christian children in order to use their blood in the baking of the matzah. This is what the blood libel is, right? Every year around Easter time till today, Jews still tremble. Now we think of Easter, Easter, bunnies, chocolate, sales, and Macy's, right?
Passion plays is what.
But really, Easter was the time when the Christian priests would come out from the churches and they would rile up the masses and say that they're not just killers of Jesus, but they're killers of our children today. Whenever there was a little boy that disappeared, a little boy or girl, that was it. The Jews, there was the verdict was determined before the trial, predetermined, and they would massacre entire villages and towns, all in the name of religious fervor. Now, as Jews, we know, are we allowed to eat blood? Are we allowed to eat blood?
No.
What happens? What do we do to our meat? We salt the meat to extract the blood. You're not allowed to eat blood. Any blood, even animal blood, is biblically prohibited. So we don't eat even a drop of blood. You know what we do to our eggs? You remember what your grandmother did to her eggs, Chuck? Or checking her eggs before she cooked eggs. You know what you did? Did you ever heard of checking the eggs?
I know that they do that.
What are we checking for?
Blood.
Want to see if it's purple.
We're checking for blood. Before we open an egg, we check it. If there's a speck of blood, the whole thing goes to the garbage. So we don't even have a drop of blood, which was going to be a fertilized egg. That's how careful we are from not eating blood. We don't even eat a speck of blood that's going to become a chick. Now you're going to accuse us of eating human blood. This is just absurdity to the highest degree. It's as absurd as saying that Israel is responsible for the October 7th massacre. It's as absurd as Russia saying that Israel has no right to defend herself. It's as absurd as Turkey, who is the great role model, Erdogan, the great role model of human rights, having gassed the Kurds. How many Kurds? I mean, tens of thousands that he massacred. So he who calls out to Iran and Turkey, you know that you're doing something right when Iran and Turkey are accusing you of human rights violations, right? Yeah. So as absurd, the Red Cross is calling for Israel to refrain from human rights violations. Meanwhile, their own mission statement, which is to protect hostages, they haven't said one peep, not one word condemning Hamas, not one word demanding seeing the hostages, nothing, right? Because you deal with a height of absurdity, which is what the blood libel is all about. It's mass hysteria with zero rational foundation. What it is just a blind accusation that evolves very quickly, that avalanches into a pogrom. What we saw October 7th was a pogrom. That's what it was. It was an absolute pogrom. It was a cruel one, the worst one ever. It was a pogrom which was videoed for propaganda purposes. It was the first. We've never seen such a thing. At least the Nazis were embarrassed. At least the Nazis were trying to hide their crimes. These guys were filming. These guys came in with video crews from the great Reuters. So what the blood libel is, the blood libel is is something that hounded the Jews for 1,000 years. And we thought that if you think that we've been cured of it, you ever heard of Mendel Beilis? The Beilis affair. Mendel Beilis was like 120 years ago. What? No, that was Dreyfus.
That's right.
But Beilis, that was another. It was a quasi blood libel, but Mendel Beilis was an explicit blood libel. He was in the late 1800s, early 1900s, an explicit blood libel where this kid disappeared near a factory in Russia, and Mendel Beilis was the supervisor of the factory, was the one held accountable.
Well, also the
Leo
elders of Zion that was put out by
Russian.
no, it was put out by Henry Ford. Henry Ford was behind sending out.
Let me tell you something fascinating about the blood libel. So in the blood libel that happened then, it was Mendel Beilis, the Beilis affair. What happened was that the Rebbe Rashab, who's the father of the Frierdiker Rebbe, he's the author of Yodaita, he is the 5th Chabad Rebbe. He instructed the Rebbe's father, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Schneerson, to be part of the defense team. Now, the prosecutors, this was more of a sophisticated blood libel because here there was actually a court case. This is a little more modern times. So what happened was he instructed the Rebbe's father to be part of the defense team. He was a brilliant genius, the Rebbe's father. The prosecutors brought the Talmud to prove the blood libel. These were educated anti-Semites. Where it says in the Talmud, you, the Jews, are called human, and the Gentiles are not called human. Atem kruim Adam, ve'ein ha'akum kruim Adam. You are called Adam, and the real translation of the word is, and the idol worshippers are not called Adam. So they liberally interpret it to mean Gentiles. So you see, it's proof in the Talmud that Jews believe that only they are human and everybody else is not human, and therefore they have no problem eating blood. By the way, one of the reasons that the priests came up with for the blood libel is that they accused the Jews of beating the body of Jesus 2,000 years after his death. You know, the wafer, the sacrament.
Eucharist. Yeah.
So it's called the Eucharist. They accused the Jews of breaking into the church in the middle of the night and beating the body of Jesus until blood came out. How can you prove it? Because there was red dots on the wafer, on the sacrament, which we know today is mold. Right? When you leave something out for that long, then there's green and red spots that are the mold. But they pointed to this red mold, and they said this is the blood of Jesus because the Jews were beating. Anyways, back to the court case, the Beilis affair. What happened was that this is a serious accusation lobbied in Russian court, Kiev, where they accused the Jews of looking at everybody else as subhuman. Came the Rebbe's father, and he explained it as follows. He said, the word Adam is a very interesting word. Adam means human being, right? But it's a word that has no plural term. Every word in any language has a singular and a plural tense. Person, people, right? Banana, bananas, right? You have tables, right? But the word Adam, is that a plural or singular term? You think it's singular, but it's also plural.
Yeah.
It's man. It's like man. It's like mankind. It's like man. When you say the word man, it's a good example in English. Man. Does man mean a single man, or does it mean man as in man? Could be both, right? That's how the word Adam is in Hebrew. Man. It's both. It's both single. You don't say mans.
Say man.
You could say men. In English, you say men. But in Hebrew, you don't say Adamim or Adamot. You just say Adam. Adam. Kama b'nei Adam. How many sons of man are here in this room? Oh, there's 15. Okay. So Adam is a word that is used in that form, those three letters, as singular and as plural. Said Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Schneerson, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Schneerson, the Rebbe's father. He explained, only the Jews, different to all other nations, are such that if one of us has a problem, that is the problem of every single Jew in existence. Every other nation, the Italians, there's a war in Italy. What's going on in Little Italy of San Francisco? Is there do they feel that they're personally being persecuted? The Irish, right? You meet Irish here that they've never, they don't speak Irish, they don't eat Irish, they don't talk, whatever. They've never even been to Ireland, right? That they can say as Irish.
You actually sound like you have an Irish accent.
I've been to the islands of Ireland.
Very good. The Blarney Stone.
So when it comes to the Jews, when it comes to other nations, it's like, okay, so we don't differentiate. Sorry, we do differentiate between them and us. But when it comes to the Jews, there's a war in Israel. A Jew in Los Angeles, right? He's responsible, right? That guy that was killed, Phil Kessler or Paul Kessler, whatever his name was, right? He's the one that they hold him accountable for it. You know, during the Entebbe raid, there was a waiter on a cruise ship in the Pacific Ocean, a Jewish waiter on a cruise ship in the Pacific Ocean. And as soon as the news came out that Israel had successfully retrieved all the hostages except for the one that was killed because she was in the hospital, the passengers on this cruise ship spontaneously lifted, they hoisted up this Jewish waiter and they carried him on their shoulders as they danced with him as if they were celebrating his personal victory. And this is what Rabbi Levi Yitzchak was explaining. He said, the reason what it says in the Talmud, you are called Adam, and the nations are not called an Adam, means that we are plural and our singular is one and the same. Only the Jews, the problem of one of us is the problem of all of us. And the victory of one of us is the victory of all of us. But when it comes to the Gentiles, not really. What do you mean? What do you mean? There's a problem in Australia? Okay, fine. It's a problem in Australia. It's not my problem. My life goes on, right? It's fascinating. That's how they defended against the blood libel in Beilis, and they won. But back to...
They won.
They won the blood libel, yeah. Beilis was, what's the word? Acquitted.
They made the priest
So
look like
isn't
an
it,
idiot.
that's call Yisrael or
People
so.
laugh.
Exactly. That's exactly what it means. All Jews are responsible one for another. We all guarantors. Your problem is my problem. Back to America. Was there ever blood libel in America? Where? Was there ever blood libel in America? No guessing. Messina, New York. What year was Messina, New York blood libel? 1924, I think it was. Messina, New York.
Messina?
America's blood libel. 1928, close enough. Okay. So 1928, there was a blood libel in Messina, New York, where a Jew was accused of slaughtering Christian. Thank God we survived that one. But that was 1928, less than 100 years ago. We're having another blood libel right now. And by the way, don't think that, so the Christian world was cured from the blood libel mania, hysteria. But the Arab world has never gotten past it. In Saudi Arabia, till this day, it's amazing for them to even think about making peace. Here. In Saudi Arabia, they still teach this. I just Googled, Saudi Arabia, a Saudi cleric accuses Jewish people of genocide drinking human blood. Right? A Saudi cleric told viewers of a lifestyle programming channel this week that Jews are murderous tricksters who exaggerate the Holocaust in order to scam world governments and use human blood to make Passover matzahs.
Still the same story.
This is 2013. Salman al-Odeh appeared in one of Saudi Arabia's Khalijifi channel talk show Monday and talked about the Holocaust and the Jews. Although he admitted the Holocaust occurred, we're making progress. Al-Odeh charged that it had been turned into a sacred historical event, a myth of tremendous proportions, and a source of extortion. Right? The role of the Jews is to wreak destruction, to wage wars, and to practice deception and extortion. Right? Citing the Talmud, and other Jewish holy books, Al-Odeh alleged that Jews believe that they have the right to kill anyone who does not adhere to their religion. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. For his coup de grace, how do you pronounce this? Coup de grace? Coup de grace. Al-Odeh launched into a classic anti-Semitic blood libel, claiming that the Jews use human blood to manufacture a Passover matzah. This is 2013, my friends. He posited that Jews eat the human blood matzah because they believe that this brings them closer to their false god. Al-Odeh's site closed with an accusation reminiscent of the 1928 Messina blood libel and the death of St. Simon of Trent. You know who St. Simon of Trent is? This kid who disappeared in Trent, right? And he became a god. They made him into a god. That Jews would lure children in order to sacrifice them and use their blood for Passover rites. I mean, this is 2013. The world has not stopped. You know, we don't learn it in our Jewish day schools, the blood libel. But guess what? There are millions and millions of people that learn. They actually learn this stuff. Israel found a Mein Kampf in Arabic
Yeah.
in a child's bedroom in Gaza.
I-
They actually learn this stuff today, right? So they actually are indoctrinated and
the schools were done.
brainwashed
Yeah.
to believe that Jews are actually bloodsuckers, right? That's exactly what they believe in. So today, when we're facing a blood libel, I just want you to realize the world has not gone mad at all. This is what the world has been believing for the past 1,000 years at least. And my question to you, I challenge you here today, friends, because I do not know the answer to this question. What has been the historical Jewish response to the blood libel? What has been the Jewish response? How have Jews defended themselves, if at all, from the blood libel over the past 1,000 years? Anybody? My thoughts exactly. Nothing. The only defense that the Jewish people ever came up with, in my opinion, in my brief thought about this question, was the Rabbi Yehuda Leib Low of Prague, the Maharal of Prague, who actually went to great lengths to create the Golem of Prague for this exact reason. The Golem of Prague was a Kabbalistic humanoid that he created
Out of clay.
out of clay. Legend has it that it's still up there in the Altneuschel in Prague. And
They wouldn't let me upstairs.
oh,
You didn't see
Kupza.
it?
Oh, check this out. We have a heckler. Kupza89 says, "Why are you fueling hate?" Kupza, please tell me why you think I'm fueling hate. Please, I challenge you, Kupza, to tell me why you think I'm fueling hate. What I'm trying to do, sir, or ma'am, I don't know if you're male or female, I apologize, is to explain the audacity, the pathetic conviction that Jews eat human blood. That's what I'm trying to explain. Point is that the Golem was there to protect the Jewish people, would literally patrol the Jewish streets of Prague to protect them from Christian bodies being flung into their windows, so that minutes later, the police would be called to say, "Oh, we found the Jewish kid." There's actually there's lots of stories. Just to give you a couple stories. Maharal of Prague, the great Maharal. He was when he was a young boy. He was a brilliant Torah sage already as a young boy. He would study all night long in the Altneuschel, which is still there in Prague. The ladies section of the Altneuschel is behind this like wall with these little windows, like little windows. You've seen it, right? So he was in the ladies section in the middle of the night, learning by himself, 9 to 10 years old. He hears the door open in the middle of the night, and he sees a shadowy figure come all the way up to the ark, open the ark, put something inside, and run out. He gets very suspicious because he's a little boy. He's able to squeeze through this little hole between the lady and the men's section. He goes out there and he investigates, and he sees that there's a pitcher filled with human blood. A pitcher filled with blood. So he's a smart boy. He realizes that it's minutes before the police are going to come here. This is a setup. They're going to say, "Oh, you see human blood in the Holy Ark of Prague." So what does he do? The story goes, this little kid makes an executive decision to violate the law of Torah. He takes this entire pitcher of blood and he drinks it. He has nowhere else to put it. There's no toilets to flush it into. So he drinks the entire blood. He becomes extremely ill. It's very dangerous, obviously, as you probably are well aware. He drinks this entire pitcher of blood. Moments later, the police banging down the door. "There he is! There it is! It's right by the ark. You see, he's already still there." And they come, they find this empty pitcher of blood. This empty pitcher of nothing. And the community is safe. He himself, however, was deathly ill for months after. Other story was in the birth of the Maharal, the day that he was born. He was born on during the Passover Seder. So what happened was that during the Passover Seder, there were Christians that were carrying a sack, and they were planning on throwing it into the basement of the window of the Maharal's father. He was the rabbi of that town. They were about to throw it in. They were walking with a sack in the dark of night with a dead baby in their bag, and they're going to throw it in. A dead baby in the thing. It's the same thing. Jews being accused of killing babies, right? This is the UN. It's the blood libel of 2023. That's what it is. We killed Gentile babies. That's what the blood libel is. So what happened was, in the middle of the Seder, suddenly Maharal's mother goes into labor. So she says, "Doctor," they call for a doctor, and everyone comes running out. And suddenly these two shadow figures, they see a mob chasing after them because they're looking for a doctor. So they start running, right? And the mob is chasing. The police see like a crisis going on. So they see a mob running after two people who had no idea about each other. They stop the two people. They find the sack with the baby inside, right? So the legend goes that during his birth, the Maharal actually saved save the Jewish community from a terrible pogrom. But my answer is, what I'm saying is that it was only the Maharal's creation of the Golem that really was the Jewish defense, a military defense, a militant defense, because that's what the Golem did. He would roughhouse the hooligans, and he would.
He was very big.
Yeah. So the idea is that was the only time that there was any form of defense for the Jews against the blood libel. I believe that in 2023, the Gentiles, the haters, the anti-Semites, are experiencing something that they've never seen before. Not in 1,000 years have they seen the Jews respond to a blood libel with such overwhelming might and force. It's the likes of which I've never seen before. So when Russia comes out and says that Israel has no right to defend herself, it sounds absurd, but they're actually correct. What they're talking about is for the past 1,000 years, Jews have never defended themselves. Like, who the hell are you anyways? You're supposed to just go like lambs to the slaughter. You're not supposed to fight back. You're breaking the rules of this game. Right? That's what they're talking about when they say that. The amount of blood libels that have happened in Russia, these guys have serious experience. They're seasoned Jew murderers. Right? And that's what they're talking about. But today, thankfully, with our own country and our own army and our own self-determination and our conviction of never again, we are fighting for ourselves. And we're not waiting to get permission from the rest of the world.
Well, we fought back in the past.
When was that?
All the wars.
Which were all the wars?
Oh, you talk about Israel's wars.
Yeah.
Okay, so those were wars. I think they were a little different, and I agree with you. But I think they were a little different because 1948 was just a war for survival. We were like, well, it was a war for the country. It wasn't a blood libel. We were fighting for our country, right? Let's talk about 1967. Again, it was a fight for the country, for land. And 73 also was a fight for land. This, I think, is the first time the Jews are being accused of being baby killers. That's and we're the ones responsible for the whole massacre.
And they did the massacre.
Right, but it's our fault, right? And I'm sorry, it's a little went off on a bit of a rant here today.
And what I said before about the protocols of the elders.
Was it Henry Ford?
Well,
Henry Ford did distribute it.
He
He went
distributed
out
it.
of his way to distribute
it was done in Russia originally.
Yeah, it was the Russians. That's right.
But it was a fabricated text purporting to detail a Jewish plot for world domination.
Yeah, that's something else.
Right.
But
That's not
don't you
blood
think,
libel. That's world
do you think that
domination. That's
all the
international Jewish story.
protesters and the media are even aware of the blood libel? I mean, all those kids romping around Cornell, do you think any of them even know what the hell the blood libel is?
I think that it's.
I think they just.
I'm gonna tell you this.
Stupidest probably
I'm gonna
ever.
tell you that they might not be aware, but I'm gonna call it systemic anti-Semitism.
Well, I don't
Systemic
dispute that it's
anti-Semitism. In other words,
anti-Semitism,
it's
but
embedded
I don't think
into
it's
their
related to the
consciousness.
blood
It's
libel.
embedded into their DNA. They were raised. They sucked us from their mother's breasts. This hatred of Jews, this conviction that Jews are bloodsuckers. In many cases, I think this is where it came from.
But you have Jews at these college campuses.
Right.
Participating.
This is something which is very difficult for me to comprehend. I don't know.
can't-
I don't know. I can't understand. Let's take a look at some of the comments, guys, coming in. My grandfather told me that he was terrorized around Easter time, says Elaine.
Yep.
Winston, Tanchuma and Pesikta state that Moshiach cannot come until Esav receives his reward for honoring his parents. Okay, that's a little off topic. I'm not going to get into that right now. Daniel, I'm sorry. I think it's time for the nations to be afraid of us. We've been passive for too long. So amen to all of this. Absolutely never again, guys. It means we're strong. What we didn't manage to do today, because we totally ran out of time, and my apologies, is getting into a deeper understanding of the cause of anti-Semitism, on the spiritual cause. I just would like to point out that what we're going to say, we'll carry on Thursday, is that it's about the war that rages on inside of us, in between the good inclination and the evil inclination, between the Semite and the anti-Semite inside of us, and we're going to get into granular detail as to the theater of war within ourselves to be able to understand how that manifests around of us. Thank you very much.
Are you going to talk about the blood libel in your talk?
I don't know. You want me to?